Hey, Dror.
Good morning.
Another week in This Week in AI. I hear we're getting a few fans. I'm meeting with a few people. They're enjoying the discussions. Having said that, my dad says he doesn't watch us anymore. He says it's too confusing. So we got to kind of mix it up a bit, I think.
What does it? What would he like?
I don't know. He's saying it's too complicated. So maybe we need to kind of make it a whole cross section. I know my it's obviously nice to have people listening to what we're talking about. Some interesting topics, but one thing this week, did you know Australia is officially the most addicted AI country in the world?
How do they measure it?
There was a study by, I think it was Zero Bounce, doing some analysis on the engagement and usage and rankings of all the sort of countries around the world, and Australia came out on top. So, I don't know if that's good news or bad news, but really looking at how people used, the usage of ChatGPT and Gemini per capita. And so obviously we've got a high usage, I think we do have a pretty tech savvy population overall. We've got a pretty small population maybe compared to some other countries. But yeah, we topped the list, score of 100, 38 million combined searches using ChatGPT and Gemini, and really the sort of highest level of engagement. So they sort of looked at, there was 1.4 searches, per person. So that's pretty good. What's your sort of take? I mean, second was Singapore and Switzerland and Ukraine. But yeah, what's your sort of thoughts on what does that mean for Australia, and does that mean we're going to adopt more of this, or?
I think it shows that people like me are skewing the average.
So you reckon you account for like
At least the Randwick suburb. Keeping the suburb here, the stats for the suburb for everyone. Look, I don't know what to make of it. I don't have an informed opinion. I mean, what does it even mean? I'm just curious. What were they really measuring? How did they score it? Search, like number of search per population or something?
Yeah. So essentially, how many searches are coming from what countries, and breaking that down per capita. So obviously Australia's got a low population, maybe relative to somewhere like, India or China. But in terms of that per capita, it seems we are adopting this technology pretty quickly. I think the interesting thing would be then, how is that going to make Australia as a test bed for using these technologies? And so, yeah, I think it's good. It's interesting to see what that means for the Australian education system. Just, are we going to get further ahead because people are using that?
I hope so. Look, I think that assuming this is true, if you ask me why this could be the case, I would say something like, first of all, I would say English-speaking country. Those technologies are started in English speaking. They perform better in the English language. I check it with other languages as well here now and again. So that's one factor. I would say that this when Australia is really a special country in that it's a very urban society, right? The outback is huge, but very small percent of the population. So really, you're looking at 4 big cities, Brisbane, Sydney.
You're going to say Randwick, weren't you? You're
about to say Randwick, the big city of Randwick. Right. So the big 4 cities, and then that urban centers like that are moving faster than the rest of the population. So if you've got a big population like in the US, where there's a big countryside, so to speak, and they're traditionally moving slower to adopt such technologies, then if you do the average, you would get that the US is a little bit behind Australia if you just average over the entirety of the United States. What do you think of this argument? Do you think that makes sense?
Yeah, look, we're going to be skewed, but I just think, are we going to be ahead, or is there negativity around everyone being AI addicted? Whether Australia will be a good thing for Australia. For us, we view, Australia punches above its weight in terms of technology, both development and usage. And so to me, this leads into Australia being a great place to grow an AI business from and go global from. That's one of our thesis as well, is Australia has a unique space here. We are smaller. We are, maybe, you could argue that the center of a lot of this is more in Silicon Valley or in China. But I do think there's some great things coming out of Australia. So to me, this just sort of shows where there's the technology is being adopted. I think we are moving ahead. We're moving ahead if we look at it per capita. So as a population, I think we might find that we'll do quite well, and solutions will start to come out more and more. And there's more emphasis on developing solutions in this space as well. I think that's what's going to come out of this.
Let's wrap this item by saying Advanced Australia Fair. I want to bring something from the distant past of 10 days ago. We didn't have a show last week, and in the ancient history of 10 days ago, less than 2 weeks, Musk had a very big week. In 1 week, they had a massive event following the successful landing of their super big booster. Very impressive engineering feat. And I think it was an interesting big time for Tesla. So I think it's like I watched the event. I read an infinite number of analysis on what's going on there. Let me briefly repeat what happened there. So Tesla kind of unveiled robotaxis, or more like a concept for robotaxis, and kind of unveiled Robobus, or more like a concept for Robobus. They both were very impractical products that were not yet ready for mass deployments. So you want to wonder why exactly they've done that, and where are we really from seeing those products in the actual market. So now they also had some walking, dancing robots. You've seen those?
At least it was robots this time. There was previously someone in a suit dressed up. So the positive is at least it was a robot.
Well, it wasn't far from a suit, because some of them were remote controlled, right? So that was there was a controversy on that. It wasn't clear. At the end of the day, you've basically you had people in a remote hangar dressed up like from the movies, like from one of those Avatar movies, when they're remote controlling a robot. So, and then of course we've got the SpaceX catching a rocket. It's very impressive. I don't really know who wants to go to Mars. I think it's a nice story to animate everyone towards technological development, and there can be amazing technology spin-offs. But I don't really think that go to Mars is the mission, but there's going to be technology and revenue along the way. So it's a little bit like how in 19th century, 18th century in the West, there was Go West, right? So go to America, the new frontier. I don't think Mars is the next America and the next frontier. Personally, it's a little bit of a boring dead rock, but it's a good animating factor for a population to get excited about technologies. Anyway, here are my points. It did feel like Tesla had to show off some futuristic stuff as a response to market development, in order to show that they're catching up, they're not behind. It didn't feel like they actually have product to unveil. And that comes from, it just started reminding me Apple. Everything was super slick. Everything was super futuristic. The product weren't ready yet. And it just get the vibe of like the kind of Apple events. And it's a very different culture than the Tesla that of 5-10 years ago, where they're like a bit more, disruptive and move fast, break things type attitude. It just shows, I think, a maturity of the Tesla brand and its place in the market. I think it has a well-defined place in the market. It used to have like everything was optional, everything was an opportunity, and now it's like, well, we know what Tesla is and we know where it's going. So I think they're trying to break out of the mold, which is why they've done that. I don't buy that these taxis and Robobus that they were unveiling would be the products that would hit the roads. It just didn't look like it. What do you think of that?
Yeah. So, well, firstly, I'm confused. Are you saying it was good or bad?
It was cringy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're saying they're maturing as well. Is that what you're saying? They're growing up, and that
they are Apple-esque, right? So when Apple was cool and up and coming, so people were like, "Wow, look, Apple like an amazing new product." And then now Apple is like incrementally adding another version of iPhone 12, whatever 2025.
Yeah, I have probably a reasonable amount of things to say about that. Just around, look, I think focus is a really important thing, and look, Elon Musk is an interesting person. My wife used to call me a musket. I'm less of a musket now than I ever was before. Look, I think Elon Musk is amazing from a an innovation point of view, and if you look at what SpaceX has just done, you've got to put your hats off to him and say that's great. One of my biggest personal investments is in that Tesla. We're early investors in Tesla. I followed that event quite a lot. I was quite disappointed with the event from a what is going on here. Are we just launching more? It was like we had to show something. But I would also argue uh, there's too many initiatives that he is the leader driving that out is involved in. And if you look at him dancing on stage with Trump, there's probably a bit of stuff there. But they needed to show something here. I was quite hopeful for the event that it will show some real positive steps forward. Look, there's some interesting positive things, and I wouldn't put it past, if you can land a rocket like that, you can create some pretty interesting products, out off the back of that. So I would not put it past Tesla to be able to do that. I would say, however, they've had a lot of people leave recently, and within their executives, and so that's a concern in what they're doing. But I also think what I would have loved to have seen is around the autonomy, how they're differentiating, how that data that they have, where that was going. And I didn't really get a lot of that. And I commute between Canberra and Sydney most weeks using autopilot. In Australia, we've got a really cut down version of what that looks like. In the US, it feels like it's progressing. I would have loved to have seen how that's going to play out. And we've been hearing this for a number of years. So, yeah, look, I think they're positioned to be able to do something interesting, but it's been like this for a number of years. And I think for me, that 90% to 100% of that 90, 95 or 98 to 100 to be able to get how this is going to, this autonomy in the robotics. To me, what it left me feeling is how far are we away from these things occurring? And I don't know that those products, until we see it in the cars, how that's going to work. So I love the vision. I'm just waiting still as an investor and as a owner. I'm waiting. My patience is though starting to feel like, is this going to come in a period? I have a bet with someone, actually a reasonable bet, that by 2030 we'll be in that situation. I'm starting to get a little bit more worried about that bet.
I think you're right. I tend to agree. So it's going to be a little bit less interesting, but I'd say this: like, the question I have in my mind is that, are we post the peak Elon? And it's really like we'll see in the next few weeks in the election in America if we pass the peak of Elon or not. I think that's going to be an interesting moment in time. Tesla, I think peak Tesla is past, meaning Tesla was the coolest stock, the coolest brand, the coolest kind of technology brand. I don't think they're going to be able to sustain that coolness factor. They are kind of behind on AI. They are trying to do robots. It's not clear that the robot technology is going to win. I don't even buy that the form factors of robot will be mass productizing of robotics would be a humanoid robot. It's kind of scary. It's not necessarily the best form factor. I think the vision of me walking around with a robot that looks like a human in the streets of Randwick doing shopping, I don't see that as particularly desired. Show it to my wife. She was like cringed by the robot. They look scary and off-putting. I don't know. I don't know yet. It's not clear that would be the form factor that makes the most sense for this type of technology. It's a little bit like building a mechanized horse. So think about it, like we had horses all our life, and then suddenly the engine was invented, and you could see someone who thought that the form factor that we'll be having for mobility would be a mechanic horse. No, we need a car. It's a different form factor. It's a different type of technology, and it's a completely different solution that solves the problem we need in the right way. I don't know, like idea of a robot walking around giving high fives to people. Why? Why does it need to look like a person? What's the point of it looking like a person?
Well, you raise an interesting point. So there's an Australian company, Andromeda. Yeah, it is Andromeda. So anyway, Grace from Andromeda makes that exact point. I was at an event last week. She has a company, founded a company that is about having AI robots that are there around care and with the elderly. And she wanted to make a form factor of something, a robot that's a lot more friendly, both colorful and actually more feminine. And so she made this exact point that she believes that there needs to be something that's less intimidating and as a care and more a robot. So it's interesting you say that. Look, I think we'll see. I think they still have something there. I think if you can, like I say, if you can use the same technology that you can land a rocket from going out into space back onto a platform, I think you have every chance to succeed in doing something useful. Whether that will be in the home or in the commercial space, that's probably what's there to be seen. And so I think they probably have something that could be used commercially that would add a lot of value. And so if you look at it from that point of view, I think that could be good. I think we're still way off some of these things being in our home to being really utilized as the vision is. But once again, I do think at some point this will happen. So yeah, it's interesting to see.
Moving on.
I wanted to just quickly touch base on something that came up, which I thought was interesting. HeyGen has these AI avatars, and you can create an avatar of yourself. And what you're now able to do is these avatars are able to join meetings for you, and they can go and attend your Zoom meetings and then be you. And look, this isn't something new. I don't know if you remember, probably about 1.5 to 2 years ago, there was a company that I was looking at out of the US. They allowed you to have your own avatar. It could then put you into meetings, and you put it on autopilot and would sit there looking out at a meeting. And so it would take what your real face was, and it would translate you to be wearing something else. So it would actually take what you're doing, talking, and it's kind of like what we're seeing with the character ones, but actually using your video. HeyGen have these avatars. You can join meetings. They can join multiple calls at the same time. I'm not sure what you think about it. I mean, what do you think the future of meetings is, having your AI avatar? And yeah, I guess just to add to that, Tim from Time Under Tension, they did a little experiment. They had their own HeyGen AI avatars attend the meetings. I think they found it quite strange that avatars would talk over each other. But yeah, what do you think about this as a concept, and even attending meetings now? Are we going to see? I mean, we already see it. You notice my Otter AI joins all of our meetings, but would you prefer my Otter AI with me in it?
When exactly would I want to be in a meeting with an avatar? What's the context here?
Maybe I can't turn up and shoot the podcast.
Okay, so I don't see that happening. I just don't see it, but who knows the future, right? But I do see that customer support, and that's about it. I don't see any other, when I call Telstra, I don't care who I talk to. So I don't care if I talk to a computer, or if I Zoom, if it's a Zoom and I call to an avatar, I want something from Telstra. It's not the person I care about, they're representative of someone else. And that's, I'm talking to a rep, then I can see that, we talk to computers. If I call the hospital to change an appointment, if I call, customer support in Tesla to book in a mechanic, maybe. But to actually replace a person, what's the use case they're talking about?
So we're talking about all these AI agents taking over and doing all these jobs. Do you want to have an agent that's represented by a video, or do you want to have how do you want that to be? Do you want it to be voice? What's this feature? So we talk about this agentic approach of where we're going in the future. We're going to have these little agents that are going to do all these things for us in different parts of our lives and businesses. How would that? So couldn't it be that this is represented? The avatars can go out and attend, do an assessment, capture all the information, ask the right questions. So let's say for insurance companies or something like that.
Okay. So it's a rep.
It could be a rep. All I'm getting at is, but it could be also, I can't attend 3 meetings. I want to sit in on a due diligence call. I'm doing that now. I guess what I say, I'm doing that now already. I'm using Otter AI. You know that. You see the benefit of that. That helps me in lots of different ways. Now the question is, this can talk for you. So it's trained on some things that maybe you want, some questions you want to ask. It comes in.
I think it's a product problem question, not really like a use case question. So if I'm in if you're in a due diligence meeting, there's 6 people, and there's Yash's avatar, and Yash's avatar, is basically a note taking. It's the evolution of the note taking a tool, and it's also able to ask 3.5 questions. Yes, that makes sense. That's the direction that does make sense. and you see a bunch of avatars and they dare to take notes. It's more like the observers roles in meetings.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense. That use case makes sense. But the idea of like someone wants to talk to me, and instead of talking to me, they're talking to my avatar, that doesn't make sense. That use case doesn't make sense.
Well, so one of their use cases was pre-screening for interviews. So like, I think so. My conclusion with this anyway is it feels like a bit of a gimmick still, but it feels like less of a gimmick than it was a year and a half ago. And maybe as this improves, and if I go, hey, I can set some objectives of what I want my avatar to go and attend this meeting to do. Maybe that's where it could go. And it might be, I want to ask these 3 questions. And I know that often, there are things that I want to attend, I want to ask that. And so maybe that's the question. I think what Tim and his team at Time Under Tension found was that everyone talks over everyone. The AR avatars are not really there.
They're not there yet, yeah.
So, and it was a bit weird. So I'd love, you should check out the conversations. They all feel like they're slightly on drugs or something going, but it is an interesting use, and I think I would like to just sort of keep track of where that goes, and there's maybe some opportunities in how that can be used. So, yeah.
All right. Next? Last item.
We talk a lot about OpenAI and Google, but I think, and even Anthropic, one of our sort of investments as well. But I think one that if people haven't tried is Perplexity. I think Perplexity is an interesting product, and it looks like they're looking to raise some more money. They feel like they're one of the big winners already, as well in the generative AI. I think they're, obviously OpenAI, we see Anthropic now being valued at a lot more. But we see that same thing with Perplexity, and I think they're looking to raise around $500 million, so 500 million, and with sort of a 9 billion valuation. And so I think that's kind of interesting. That's going to be 3 times more what they were valued at, previously. I find the tool is quite useful. It's not just using one sort of new way to search, and yeah, I think they've got an interesting product. Have you used it much?
No. When do you use Perplexity? Is that more like for, enterprise collaboration on Gen AI tasks, something?
Yeah, so I think all of the model providers are now trying to get into this enterprise side of things. But I think the way Perplexity works is really it allows you to search a new way to search, and you can sort of decide where which models you want to use. It really refines a lot of the way you can do that in
and
really
I don't know. And the amount of money they're raising, is that mostly for growth, or is it mostly for it goes into capex in the form of spending on their Gen AI and chips and whatever? Does it say?
I don't know what the full sort of money's going to be spent on, but what I think is that it's probably them moving more into that enterprise space. And I think that one of their key things is around being able to do research with it, access all the models in one place. So rather than saying I'm going to use ChatGPT or Claude, you can kind of customize it. I kind of do that myself now. So I think the role of Perplexity as well is to tap into whatever is there. So maybe they will be that one, could be potentially one of those interfaces.
So here's the question I have about it. So I'm not a naysayer at all. I'm just trying to think through the use case. So they're trying to say, look, it's about Gen AI is going to take over search, and it's going to be for the enterprise. And that's kind of what I hear. And then we need a fuck ton of money. Okay, what do you need the money for? Oh, we need a ton of money for our infrastructure. Compute is super expensive in the Gen AI age, etc. Okay, fine. I haven't seen their financials, so I'm speaking just as an observer reading the news. I'm not pretending to know extremely too much about it, but I've got the following 2 questions that I think which, as investors in the space, needs to be thinking about. Search is not an enterprise product. So search was not like Google for enterprise. Like search is something I do by myself when I search something. Document creation is, presentation sharing is, note taking is in meetings, etc. But search itself was not exactly an enterprise product. So besides search for your own internal search for your own documents, which was not a big business. It's not Google. Google didn't go there, right? So yes, it's big business, but you kind of solve it by the big guys who gives you the I don't know. Is that what they're going after? That's question number one. Question number two, they're saying Gen AI is good for search and search for enterprise. So I said search doesn't really go for enterprise, and Gen AI, I don't really think that Gen AI is good for search. I'm using Gen AI all the time. I use it all the time, and ChatGPT solves my problem. So when I ask my kid asked me why does it get scratchy when a mosquito bites you? So I asked ChatGPT, give me the answer. I told him the answer. Where is what's the alternative? The alternative was to Google it and then sift through 50 different articles that trying to clickbait me and sell me ads in order to get to the answer, or just go to Wikipedia. So what is Gen AI really? It synthesizes, it read the internet for you, and it synthesized the answer from the internet for you. So what am I missing? What's the use case of an actual enterprise that wants it that I'm not seeing? Help me.
I just want to share my screen and show you something.
Okay.
All right. Let's just talk this through. And when you go, what's the use case? How do you use it?
Yeah. Teach me.
There's Perplexity. There's what it looks like. I've just put in who's Empress Capital. Now I'm just going to use the standard thing that I have just to give you the view of how you could decide what. But essentially for me this is quite useful. So who's Empress Capital? What does it do? It gives me the answer, gives me the key details, investment philosophy. This is just straight off the bat. What I'm saying is, this is, leadership, talking about what we're doing. Okay, what are some of the companies we've invested in? I don't know. This is pretty useful.
But that's every chatbot does that.
No, I know, but what I'm saying, the interface is to me, this is quite a useful.
Okay. I agree, it's useful, but how is it different than chat? Sorry, let's just ChatGPT difference. What's the difference? That it gives you further following questions.
So I think the point is you're not tied into one model, so you can use a mix and match depending on what you want to do.
Who gives a shit about the model? Like what? When does it's like saying I don't care. It's like a car. I buy a car. Do I care about the engine inside the car? Some people, hobbyists and super professional people, do care about the model. But why would a normal run-of-the-mill user give a shit about the model so long that the answers are good? What am I missing?
No, I think you want to use the best way to search. I just feel like it's bringing you just more understanding for you to get an answer. That's all. I just feel like it's an alternative.
You literally described any LLM. That's any LLM. So what's the feature set that makes sense for an enterprise use case? Maybe you can say, well, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I'm a bit ignorant here. So I feel like I'm asking the simplicity question, but like from the outside, it doesn't look like that. I don't know. And it just, I'm feeling a bit like not comfortable with those massive amount of money they raise. They're not, like 10 years ago, if you hear someone raising 500 mil, you say, gee, it's unbelievably successful. They are growing their team 10x. Nowadays, their team stay the same. All that money goes to Microsoft and Nvidia. So that's kind of the concern I have as a responsible citizen. Hey, this was another This Week in AI. Thanks for joining us when Yash and Dror are trying to make sense of the infinite amount of news in that fast-moving news in that space, and ask themselves, how does that translate to successful investment strategies here in Australia? Thank you for joining. If you've got questions, ask them down below.
And also come and join us for the people in Sydney. Come and join us at our Sydney Dazed and Diffused, which is going to be on the 11th of November. Come and look it up and come and join us. But thanks for joining us. That's another week in AI.
Bye-bye.